Jeremy A. Lopez is the director of a documentary that is out. Well, he's going to tell us. I don't need to go to the music. He's going to tell us exactly where you can see his film, One for All, the DJ Chris Villa story. Director Jeremy A. Lopez is here to join us. Jeremy, thank you for joining us today on the Film Threat Livecast. Over 500 people watching. Your doc is out today. Good to see you, sir.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Hey.
Good to be with you.
Cool.
Yeah, so the doc, it's not out yet. It's going to be out in February. So it's going to be out on Amazon Prime Video. So having everybody follow the Instagram page at DJ Chris Villa Doc, and for news and updates. But yeah, it should be out in February.
Cool. Tell us about the documentary.
Yeah, so it's about this phenomenal DJ Chris Villa and his story. He went to the same high school in Arizona, and he's just a phenomenal talent. Was been the official DJ for the Phoenix Suns, Arizona Diamondbacks, this year the Arizona Cardinals. And when we shot this documentary, he had gotten accepted to this worldwide DJ competition called the Red Bull Freestyle Championship, and he was one of 6 U.S. finalists. So out of all the DJs in the U.S., they only picked 6, and so we kind of followed his journey to that competition in Philadelphia, and yeah, it's an awesome time.
And it's what were some of the first of all, a lot of the people in our audience, there's like 500 people watching. Please post your comments, questions for Jeremy here. I have a documentary myself coming out in April. It's another documentary I've been working on for a decade. What were some of the challenges that you faced in doing this documentary? Because I really want to help, like, for those watching in the chat and watching us live, like, you need to know, making a documentary, like I say, most documentary filmmakers I meet don't have butlers. You're probably not going to get rich making a doc. It is a work of passion. So what drew you to it, the subject, and then also, like, what were some of the challenges in getting the movie made?
Yeah, man, those are some great questions. Well, this is my first documentary, my first feature directing. So it was a whole new experience. I was drawn to the story just because I had, Chris was friends with a bunch of my sisters, and they always used to go out to where he was playing. I would hear about him, peripherally. And I'm like, he's got a big following, and it might be cool to shoot some with him about him. And that was before the Red Bull Freestyle came up. So, the story kind of came together. As soon as we found out he got accepted, we're like, hey, this is a great anchor to the piece. And, the challenge with the documentary, especially one that you're following live events, is that you don't know what's going to happen. I didn't know what the story was going to be, really until the editing room. But, as you're shooting, you're just trying to capture moments and things that might help you later. And, in this case, it was funny that, Chris got out of the 6 competitors that night. He got picked to go last. We didn't find that out until Philadelphia. So kind of cinematically, it really lended itself to a great story. So, I not knowing what was going to happen was probably the biggest challenge. And then also dealing with people that aren't used to being on camera. I tried to, when you're doing interviews and whatnot, it's not first nature to answer a question using the question so that, you don't have to use the interviewer's question. And so trying to coach people through that, but then also not wanting it to sound rehearsed and wanting it to feel natural, and, let whatever came up come up.
So you were like, sorry, Alan.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'll say one challenge I felt like you had was the fact that Chris is pretty much a nice, straight edge kind of guy. He doesn't drink, he doesn't do drugs, he loves his wife, doesn't philander. Do you think there was a challenge? Do you think there was a challenge there in telling the story of a great guy who lives a good life?
No, I mean, I was intrigued by that because I didn't know Chris very well personally until we started shooting. I was finding out a lot of this stuff, and I just really was amazed at his just his values and his his dedication to his craft. And that's it is about for him. You know, I think the stereotype that I had in my mind, because I'm not, you know, I don't follow DJs, I'm not in that world. Um, so the stereotype I had in my head was, you know, the guys that stay out all night, party, doing drugs, you know, floundering with the girls and all that. And you know, and it's a career that is fraught with pitfalls, and he has managed to steer clear of that and just focus on the music. Um, and he's got just incredible talent. I mean, it's one thing to see him do his thing on his videos and stuff on social media, but to see him scratching live, and it's mind blowing. So
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's what works about your documentary is the fact that you capture, because I don't know much about DJs, but to see the art at the top of its form in your documentary is fascinating for me to know. Oh, now I get why people are into this kind of music, into the whole DJ scene as well.
yeah, I mean, and I made this from a perspective of not being in that world, so I stayed away from, you know, all the technical things that I frankly didn't care for, but I was more interested in him as a person. And you know, music has the unique ability, I'd say singularly unique ability to unify, you know, more so than film even. And that's something I saw. Chris has just an innate talent for doing that, and it was apparent in you know, everywhere I followed him to. He and his knowledge of music, you know, he plays a lot of different styles and genres, and you know, so he's able to just bring it all together, and people fall behind him. It's incredible to see.
And I see it on the front page of Film Threat right now. Excuse me, right now.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
Yeah, thanks, guys.
it got a good review. Let's go to, we have a bunch of comments and questions from our audience watching live. So do you mind if we go to some of these questions here?
Awesome.
Let's do it. Okay. Tree of Woe says, how does a DJ competition work? How does one win?
I can't speak to any other ones except for Red Bull Freestyle, but they have three judges in this case. I think sometimes they've had more, but you know, they judge a DJ set. They do a 15-minute set. They judge them based on originality, the technical skills like the scratching and mixing, the crowd response is a component. I think there's a couple other criteria that all go into the final score. And in this case, the winner of the U.S. finals, you know, it's a worldwide competition, so you have winners from, you know, I think they had 25 different countries in this year, and they got to go to the world finals in Taiwan. So that was the prize that was on the line.
Another question here, another comment from Aries Aurelian. Can already imagine the magic DJ music in this. There's a comment there. Creepy Dan says, how do you tell what is worth capturing when filming a doc? I find myself filming too much useless stuff. So a question from a fellow filmmaker. Yeah, how do you do that? And also, like, you might miss something if you're not always filming, right?
That is such a good question. There was more ended up on the cutting room floor than ended up in the film. I mean, you shoot, you know, probably 10 times as much footage as you actually end up using, and you can't be precious with your edit. You know, you really gotta, you know, filter out what's really important and narrow down. You know, especially in documentary, you really got to figure out what is the story you're trying to say. I mean, I could have gone down any number of tangents with this, but I really had to force myself to focus, and because you have a lot of good stuff that you can't use. So, you know, it's I wouldn't say anything's useless, because you never know when you're gonna, you know, need a insert shot or something to, you know, at the competition we had 2 cameras there, so it's impossible. You know, I was running around, and you know, we're trying to get shots from different perspectives, and there was a few times that both of us are trying to find a shot at the same time. And when you're, you know, in this case, I was trying to have a seamless edit to bounce between cameras, and you know, you had to use an insert shot or something to keep the story going.
A question about the music clearance. They're saying in the chat, music clearance must have been a nightmare. Portland 182 says, can you talk about music licensing?
Yeah,
fierce. Like, how did you?
The film? I'll just say the film features a set involving, is it Billie Jean, I believe, Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and yeah. So, can you talk about the music?
Yeah, how did you?
Sure. So, yeah, well, you guys we're talking about court cases with free speech and whatnot a little bit earlier, and it kind of leans into that. So um, there's a thing called fair use, and you can. I didn't use any of the music for a soundtrack or for anything that I wasn't specifically referring to in the film. So you know it is was a challenge. We had to kind of go back and forth and see what's usable. But if I were to pick that Billie Jean song and use it as an opening title sequence, I wouldn't be able to do it. But showing Chris in the radio station playing scratching to the song for a portion that's about his career in the radio station, that's where you're okay and you're covered under fair use.
Cool. I'm
Wow.
not sure I understand this question, but maybe you can clarify. Spidey Sensei 72 says, actually DJs with turntables and vinyl or the ones that use Serato. So it's different types of DJs.
Well,
right?
they were Chris definitely uses turntables and vinyl, but I mean, Serato, I'm not quite sure how Serato works and what's its function. Sorry, Serato. But I heard that they were one of the sponsors of Red Bull 3 Style, so I'm sure these guys are using Serato. I think that's a software program, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Well, Imperfect says fair use will get you locked on Twitter. I wasn't aware of that. So yeah.
Neither was I.
And so I'm just looking for other questions here. People just seem interested in the movie. I personally am a huge fan of music related documentaries. We actually have a category for it for our award this show, because I think you can't there are certain types of even documentary genres within documentary. Documentary is just a different way to tell a story, like animation. Animation can be so many different things. But I love music. There's music docs. There's social justice and social issue docs. There are, pop culture docs that, my film falls in the category of pop culture documentary. Some other comments and questions here for you. Ramina Jones asks, he has Serato there on the laptop. Turntables is the mechanism to utilize it, or you can use CDJs. So maybe it's a combination of both, using programs and using vinyl as well. So
yeah, and like I said, I didn't get too deep in the technical side, and my knowledge is limited on that end. But there's some parts in the film where Chris is prepping his set, and we kind of go through his process to how he comes up with what he's doing, and he's using some vinyl there. I don't know if it's just to scratch on, and he's probably laughing watching this right now that he doesn't know what he's talking about. But yeah, no, that's good to know. Thanks for that, Ramina.
Campos Sergio says, how long does the story span? How long was the filming? Greetings from Switzerland. We have international viewers. So
awesome.
Greetings from Pasadena, California.
Hey, Campos. Yeah, I'm in LA too. So we shot probably a total of 6 days. We spent a few days in Arizona following Chris around to some gigs and interviewing family and whatnot. And then we were in Philadelphia for 3 days, I think, shooting. The competition was just one night, so we did some supplemental stuff around there.
Cool.
So pretty short, independent, low budget film.
Cool. And then Fletcher Williams has a technical question here. Fletcher asks, what editing software did you use, cameras used, and since you travel a lot, how did you choose how to color correct to set the same tone? I'll just real quick say, I've gone through the color correction process. I love it. Color correction and sound mix. Your movie's done when you've locked picture, color correct. It's like, oh my God, it's a real movie. But there's always challenges, especially when you're doing a lot of field shooting. You can't control the light. So can you talk about editing software and the cameras you used?
Yeah. Shot on, I edited on Final Cut Pro, and we shot most of it on a Red, I think it was an Epic. And then at the competition, I was shooting on a Sony A7 II, and the color correction. Yeah, I mean, that's worth its weight in gold. Luckily, the Sony A7 just has gorgeous picture and color already. And anybody who's thinking of shooting their own film, I mean, do not underestimate the power of color correction. And so we budgeted for that, and I feel like they were able to match it pretty good. And there's the company in Burbank. Shout out to Color Space Finishing. They do a phenomenal job, and they work with a lot of independent film, and they really can make your DP look good. It's amazing the things that a good color corrector can do.
Yeah, it's that's when you know it's becoming a real movie. I love it. A comment here, Cavatino Cavalryman Shay says Serato lets you use any sound or song on file to manipulate on the vinyl record or mixing device.
Yeah,
There you go.
because most modern songs are not on vinyl. I think that's
Right.
why that exists.
Creepy Dan has another follow up here. Any tips on how to keep yourself motivated through the process? Was the story always clear to see, or was it something that changed along the way?
Man, this is making me feel a lot less alone because man,
Good.
yes, yes, and yes, man. This was a long process, and mostly I like to blame, hey, resources or legal or whatever. But at the end of the day, a lot of it was me sitting in front of Final Cut Pro and just being like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know which shot to use, or which clip of dialogue. And yeah, I think I had such a profound respect. I have such a profound respect for Chris and his family and his story that it was going to get done. I felt like, I was honored to be entrusted, because he's a quiet, he's a pretty private guy. And, it took some convincing to get him to do this in the first place. So, I just, was really motivated to keep pushing through, and eventually you stew on things, you sleep on things, and you get through blocks, and it usually comes together.
I feel like most films die in editing.
Yeah,
Or come alive. Or come alive.
Come on, that's true.
We've got like a really good final question here for you. This is the one question that everybody wants to know the answer to. My Kingdom for a Film, who's a member, thank you for that. This may have been asked already. It hasn't. How did you raise the funding for your film?
Yeah, well, that's the perpetual problem, the perpetual challenge. We, we self-funded. We at least to get through production, and that's, if you're shooting a film and you can at least raise enough to get it shot, it's a lot easier to get finishing funds after that. And we didn't spend a lot of money to do it. We didn't have a lot of money to do it, so we just did the best we could. But we definitely needed some help on the back end after, and it's just putting a pitch deck together and reaching out to people that who might be able to believe in the project and throw a few $1,000 in. But we didn't crowdfund for this one. That I've also seen that be effective. But yeah, luckily we didn't need a ton to get us across the finish line. So,
and I know how challenging it can be with, like, once you get to that phase, the color correction and the sound mix, you're looking at, FYI, on the minimum for a sound mix, $5,000, on the minimum for a good color correction, $5,000. And you're going to spend a lot more too if you go through different passes and whatnot. So that's like baseline. That's like just someone who is just a guy out of his house doing color correction. They're really good, talented people that do that. So it is not a cheap process to finish. Not just that, legal. I'm going through the legal process right now. We can have a whole conversation about legally clearing your movie so that you can actually sell it on all the platforms. And Jeremy, can you let us know, like, what platforms can you get One for All, the DJ Chris Villa story? Where will it be available in February?
Yeah, sure. It's going to be on Amazon Prime Video to start, and then be on Tubi and Google Play and all the rest of them shortly thereafter. So
cool. So put it in your Just Watch file and check it out when it comes out. Jeremy, great to have you on the show.
Yeah,
so
guys.
You got to make it. I'm a huge fan of, like, documentaries made by someone who's passionate about a topic, and having gone through the doc process. Mine, I made an archival doc. It's very different than a doc where you're in the field shooting and capturing a live event
Oh
as it's
yeah.
happening. So, more power to you and congratulations on the movie. Congrats.
Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Cool. And where can people find you if they want more information? You mentioned your Instagram earlier.
Yeah, the film has an Instagram page at DJ Chris Via Doc on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then I'm Jeremy A. Lopez on Instagram, and best way to follow us for news and updates.
And Creepy Dan sends in $2 super chat, says, thanks so much for the answers. Great wisdom. Awesome.
Right on.
Cool. All right. Take care, Jeremy.
All right, guys.
Jeremy.
Thanks
All
a
right,
lot.
later.
Talk to you
Thanks.
soon.